Welcome to the podcast. We do recover with Jared Miller, your host.
And I'm Dr. Terry Sellers, your co-host.
This is a podcast about recovery from addiction.
We want to talk about what successful recovery can look like.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
Hey, welcome everybody to episode number 53. This is We Do Recover with Jared Miller. However, today, Jared is not in studio, so I'm going to try to carry this whole podcast, I was going to say by myself, but we have a guest, so I don't have to carry the whole thing.
No.
But we will get to that in just a second. Episode 53, the first section of our podcast, is sponsored by Steps Recovery Center, where addiction ends and healing begins. If you or a loved one need help at all, please feel free to give Steps a call. Their number is 801-800-8142. Having said that, we have our guest today, Vanessa McNeil. Vanessa
Hi.
knows something about Steps, right?
I sure do. I went to treatment at Steps.
Oh, beautiful. And
Yeah.
how was that?
It was awesome.
All right,
It
great.
was just what I needed.
Great, perfect. Well, so Vanessa's a product of Steps, and she will tell you they did a pretty good job, probably, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
Steps is a great place. So if you guys need help, again, feel free to give them a call, 801-800-8142. Shannon, who might be a friend of yours, says, yes, Vanessa, you are incredible, my best friend and family for life.
I love you, Shannon.
Shout out to Shannon. Thanks
Shout
for the
out,
comment.
Shannon.
All right, so let's do sort of the things we do, which is the first part is new and goods. I'm going to try to do this podcast without Jared's help. Jared, you guys know, is sort of the life of the podcast and does all of the technical. Not the technical stuff, because Sean does the technical stuff.
I do the technical stuff.
He does the sort of day-to-day laundry stuff, and I don't do that stuff. So I'm going to try to do his stuff. But what we start with typically is new and good. So, Sean, I'm going to start with you. What is new and good in your world?
Oh, my wife's been gone for 3 days. It's been fantastic.
Oh, my gosh. Do not let her hear that.
Oh, no, she'll never listen
That's
to this.
terrible.
Okay.
She had something up in Park City, so
Oh,
I've had the
so
entire
you're
bed to
batching
myself.
it?
Oh, man, it was quiet in the house.
Oh, that's
Nobody
so
asking
good.
me
To
anything.
do stuff.
It was fantastic.
Okay.
Got up when I wanted to, went to bed when I wanted to, ate what I wanted to. And the bed, the bed, it was amazing.
It sounds fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm
Listen,
going to send her on a conference every other week.
how long have you been married?
I don't know, 7 years, 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay if your wife goes out of town once in a while, guys. It's
It
fine.
needs to happen more often.
Yeah, it needs to happen
just-
some.
I mean, she's coming home, and I had to run home to get the house ready before she showed up.
Sure.
Which is why the podcast is late. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
But
We're fine.
that's my new and good.
Well, that's new and good. Fun.
There you go.
All right. Well, we have our special guest today, Vanessa McNeil, and we're going to get to her story in just a second. But before we do that, what's new and good in your world?
New and goods. I feel like this microphone's really close, but we'll keep it that way. Okay. So I just got back from California.
Sweet.
It was rad. I went with some friends that are in recovery, and that's something that I would have never been able to do or never had the opportunity to do. And it was great. We went to meetings with the 12-step program that I'm involved in.
Sweet.
It was rad. It was just an epic time with some epic friends that are in recovery, and I loved it.
I love that.
I loved it,
I
yeah.
love that.
Can't wait to go again. I want to go back.
Did you see our next comment? Our next comment is by somebody who has the same last name as me. That's
I know.
weird. That would be my wife. My wife
Yes.
says, "Hey Vanessa, she meant love you, sister. Love your sisters, but she said love your sisters anyway." And she said congrats. So
Yeah. Thank you. Hi.
Melody says hi.
Hi, Melody.
So I'll tell you why that's the case is I have known Vanessa for a long time. We used to live 3 houses apart in Orem, and she spent some of her teen years, I'm guessing, is about, I can't remember exactly how old you were when you lived there, but
yeah, I was a teen.
yeah.
Yep,
Some of-
16.
Some of her teen years on my street.
Yeah.
Not my street, like I didn't own it, but your street
Yeah.
and my street. And, my kids were friends with you and your brother, and I know for sure Crystal was kind of close to Damien.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so I've known Vanessa for a long time, and wanted to get her story because she's got a story that's going to knock everybody out. So I think before we get to that, though, I have one quick announcement. Sean, do you have that? Can you pull up that quick picture? Okay, the announcement is this. So Thursday, September 30th, from 5 to 9 p.m. in Ogden at the Monarch, is the Recovery Expo, which is being held. Like I said, that night for 4 hours. There's 4 speakers that are all really, really great speakers. I can't read all their names, sorry, but I do know Casey Scott. I know Travis Whitaker well.
Rob Eastrom
Okay.
and Jennifer, they used cursive instead
Yeah,
of like
I know
Comic
that.
Sans font.
First of all, it's a long ways away from me, and second, it's not in a very easy to read font. But I know 2 of those people, and they're going to be excellent speakers. So
I'm sure Jared's hearing this and going, "They're saying the names wrong."
yeah. Well, Jared never gets a name right.
Oh, he gets
Yeah.
his own name wrong every time.
Right. So I feel fine about the fact that I got 2 out of 4 names. That's about at par for the course. So anyway, show up if you're up around Ogden the 30th of September, Thursday night, 5 to 9 p.m. Doors open at 5 o'clock. All right. Now, having said that, I got one more quick announcement. There is an organization called the Sobriety Foundation, and the Sobriety Foundation, we have had Susan Peterson on this podcast before. Susan Peterson started the Sobriety Foundation when she lost a son to this disease, and that foundation pays for 2 months of sober living for people just coming out of treatment. And they have their big fundraiser. It's going to be on October 8th at the Grand America in Salt Lake, and they're having a live auction right now. Online from now until October 8th. They've got a whole bunch of really cool things that are up for auction. And if anybody out there wants to go take a look at that live auction, I don't have the web address, but if you just Google Sobriety Foundation, it'll take you to their web page, and I think there's a link on that web page to the live auction. So give that a look. There's some really cool things up for auction. Some of them are actually related to recovery, and some of them are not at all related to recovery, but they're all related to having fun and raising money for a pretty good cause. So give that a look. October 8th, Grand America. Tickets are on sale. You can get those also through the website of the Sobriety Foundation. So, all right, so let's get to Vanessa. Let's start with right now, and then we'll go backwards. But we're not going to go. We're going to go now and then jump all the way back and then move forward. But
That's
so right
confusing.
now, tell us what you're doing right now. What's your life like? What do you do? What's happening?
Well, I when I finished with treatment, I was starting to be involved.
Wait, where'd you go to treatment?
Oh, Steps Recovery Center.
No, they're one of our sponsors. Yeah. What a cool place to go. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so while I was in Steps, actually, it was kind of like it was kind of like a bridge, I guess, that helped me to cross over into the recovery community, into the 12-step program that I'm involved with now. And I'm pretty heavily involved in that.
Okay.
I've got service commitments. I have a beautiful sponsor. And I work the steps. I'm happy today. I feel happy. I work. I have 2 jobs. So I kind of, like, when I'm at home, I kind of live a boring life, which is cool. You know, like I keep to myself when I'm at home, but when I'm out in the community, I'm just all over the place.
But you're a personality, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not a small personality.
No.
You're kind of a big personality.
Yeah,
which is fun.
Yeah, well, the thing is
But sometimes at home, those big personalities like to chill out a little bit.
yeah, that's time, I guess, to recharge. My sponsor was telling me, she's
Sure.
like, you gotta have time to recharge before you go back out. But
Yeah, sure.
yeah, like the thing is I spent so much of my life in a place of sadness, in a place of despair. I always held on to hope, but right before I came to down to St. George, like, I started to lose that. That's why I knew that I needed to change something. And I just feel like, you know, I've been told before that I'm not, like, this is just like made up, that I'm just not this happy person, but I really am.
Great.
And I think that it's just because of so much sadness, like, it's my turn to be happy.
Sure.
You know, and you got to have that balance. So.
Plus, who gets to tell you who you are?
Yeah.
Right? You get to be who you are.
Yep.
Nobody gets to tell you you're not a happy person.
Nobody.
That's ridiculous.
Sometimes I'm sad. Sometimes, I mean, everyone
for
has,
sure.
you know what I mean? But
For sure.
for the most part, I am happy.
You've got stuff in your life that you could be sad about for sure. And
Yeah.
I'm guessing that hits you sometimes, but
Oh, absolutely. And there's a point in time, like there's time to grieve and then there's time to come out of that. You know what I mean? And I think that's a healthy way of me grieving the things that have happened in my life.
Sure.
Instead of one thing that I learned is that I get to choose how long I suffer. Grief is a process and suffering is a choice. So I get to choose when to stop suffering. And my time to suffer is I don't, like I've had enough suffering in my life.
yeah.
So yeah, I will grieve. I grieve things and then I'm able to come out of it because.
Look how wise you are. Seriously, that's great stuff, right?
Yeah. Well,
Say that again for me really quick. You said grief
is a process and
process.
suffering is a choice.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah, grief is mandatory
Yeah,
almost, right?
absolutely.
It happens. You can't stop it. But choosing to wallow in it.
Yep, you
is
get
a
to
choice.
choose. Yeah, it's a choice, and that's not something that I didn't think that was a choice, until
Right,
I
sure.
was able to come out of some of that fog.
Sure.
And then I realized that it's not, I don't have to suffer. Like once now that my self-worth is building up, I love myself today. There's sometimes, when I have hard days, but I wasn't able to even say that I love myself, which I do. I love myself today. And being able to say that and to be able to feel that, it's like I'm able to see with more clarity, and I know that I don't have to suffer. It's not, I don't deserve to be unhappy or,
Wow.
in that. And a lot of that has to do with my dad too. My dad got in my head when I was young. You know what I mean? And
Your dad did?
yeah.
Okay, this is a story. We need to talk about this, but a couple of people are, by the way, shout outs real quick. Sean, can you move that at all down a little bit? There's one below that Shannon comment that I want to read if you can. Okay, so Amber Bride said, thank you, or love you, Vanessa Marie McNeil.
I love you, Amber.
I just found your middle name. Angela Sweet said, yay, Vanessa. And
Hey, girl.
Shannon says, I knew that sadness. I lived that sadness with you. It's so beautiful seeing you shine now.
She did.
And then
That girl's my family for
and then
sure.
Terry, which is a beautiful first name, said, so proud of you.
Love you, Terry.
And then Amber again said, you are a true inspiration and example. Thank you. So,
Yeah.
hey, thanks for the Facebook comments, guys. Keep those coming. So our guest is Vanessa McNeil. So let's go back. Tell us a little bit about childhood. Where were you born? Tell us about brothers and sisters.
Okay.
Where did you grow up? What was that like? That stuff.
Well, it was a dark and rainy night. I'm just
I
kidding.
love it.
No, I was born in Long Beach.
I'm doing the lightning and the thunder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was born in Long Beach, California. And I'm the second sibling.
Okay.
I've got an older sister, Rachel,
Okay.
a younger sister, Alexis,
Okay.
and I had a younger brother, Damien,
Okay.
and then 4 sisters that were adopted from Russia and the Ukraine. They were in the Ukraine, I believe, is where
Yeah.
they were when
Yeah.
when my mom, she went over to get one and she brought back 4. So my mom was just super loving like that. You
Your
know what I
mom
mean?
was super loving.
Yeah.
There's no question. And there's
Yeah, you know.
I did know. And your mom was the sweetest person ever.
Yeah.
And for those of you that know Vanessa and know her story, there's going to be not maybe tons of surprises here, but for those of you that don't know this story, it's unbelievable because so far we've already talked about your mom in the past tense.
Yeah.
We've already talked about your brother in the past tense.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we've already talked about your dad in the past tense. So
Yes.
there's going to be a lot of tragedy in this story, and it's a unbelievably tragic story, but it's so good to see you rise above it. And to me, the thing, as I reflected on what we were going to do today, because I do think about this stuff ahead of time. I try to pretend like I'm winging it all, but I mean, I for sure spend some time in my brain about it. And
Right.
the one thing that I kind of wanted to bring out today was, or the thing that struck me, I guess, is I think if you put 1,000 people in your exact circumstances, almost every one of them turns to something like drugs and alcohol.
Mm.
I just think that is a coping mechanism that obviously doesn't work long term, but that might work in the short term for people with as much tragedy in their lives as you have had.
Right.
So let's get to that
Okay.
a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend the whole thing on all of that, but it's a story. I mean, it's worthy of Dateline NBC because it's been on Dateline NBC. So,
Yeah.
so growing, how was childhood? Like, where was it, and how was school? How'd you do
Childhood-
in school?
I did well in school.
Okay.
I was always I wanted to make my dad proud. I wanted him to be proud of me. So I always made sure to do well in school. It came naturally kind of to me. I was a shy kid, which is different. It's
Grown out of
strange.
that.
Yes, I know I've grown out of that. It's crazy. But yeah, like I graduated high school when I was 15, and had a scholarship to college. I grew up very close with my family, and I just didn't know. I knew that my dad's always been different, but the good parts of me, all of the beautiful things of me, they come from my mom, because my mom was very loving and she fed me the love that I needed. Like, you know what I mean? My dad provided for us.
Okay.
Yeah, he provided for us, but my mom nurtured us.
Okay.
And that's the way that I
Sort of very traditional roles.
Yeah. But it's just, I guess maybe in my head, like I always knew that something was going on in my family, and I blocked out a lot of things. Like
Okay.
throughout my life, I don't remember a lot of my childhood.
What do you mean by that? Like what?
Like all of the things that I found out that my dad was doing after
Okay.
my
Okay.
mom's death. I was just unaware of that because I thought that my parents were like the model
Right.
relationship.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? And I knew, even though I knew that my dad didn't, I felt as if my dad didn't love me in the way that I needed it. I knew that I felt like he loved my mom in that way.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right.
But so,
So your dad, to you, your father wasn't especially nurturing,
no,
but he's a great provider.
he was a provider. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was a provider.
Yeah.
But I grew up I grew up being very embarrassed of having money.
Okay.
Because because I was shy, other people in school, they were like, oh, you're stuck up. And it just made me,
Oh.
not want,
Oh.
and the big houses that we'd have, the big houses, I would always I'd be on the bus going to school, and there was this little teeny tiny house, and I wanted to live in it. It was like a one-roomed house that was for rent, just because I knew that my family would have to be, like,
Together.
I'd have to see them and they'd have to be together, because I always wanted that.
Yeah, because listen, when I knew you, obviously we lived on the same street. That was a street full of pretty big homes,
Absolutely.
and yours was the biggest. Like it really was, right?
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
the
big.
biggest house on that street
Yeah.
by far.
Well, I
and
wasn't
the
sure of
nicest.
that, but I just
Well,
knew that it was big.
I'm pretty sure it's the biggest on that street. And,
Yeah.
and it looks like probably the most expensive for sure. And it was a beautiful home for sure, but somehow that was embarrassing to you.
Well, not embarrassing, but it was just like I was very misunderstood with other kids, and that
'Cause
was
people thought you were snotty because you had a bunch of money.
right. And
Okay.
really, I was shy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But the house, that Orem house, that was my mom's dream home, and I was stoked on that. I was out of high school by the time we moved into that home.
Okay.
So I was in college. I was going to college at UVSC when it was UVSC. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So, so you had a sense things weren't always the same as what you saw.
Well, yeah, because it was just different. It was like when I would get mixed up by how the act was, my dad acted,
Okay.
and how our family was on the outside, rather than the way that my dad was
At home.
at home.
Okay.
And so I would get that confused because I've always been one that's just been, like it's hard for me to be anything other than exactly
Who you are.
who I am.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would get that confused.
But you're saying, and again, I don't listen. The one thing we don't want to do is, I don't want to take any time talking about people who can't be here, and belittling them. I want this to be
Yeah.
your experience,
Yeah.
not his or hers or theirs.
Yeah.
Or this is your experience. But from your side, you saw, and I'm trying to make sure I understand this. You perceived a father who put on a show for everyone else, and then at home was different than that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I just didn't understand it. I didn't
Okay.
understand. I always, in my head since I was little, I was like, there's something about this is a lie. You know what I mean? And some of the
So you
experience,
could sort of sense that.
I could sense it. Some of the things that I had to go through, which are just, like something I'm not still, like some of the trauma I'm not still able to like face or work through. It was very confusing to me. I just knew that there was something very wrong, but it turned into a thing where I thought that because I thought everybody else knew and I didn't know, so I thought that it had to have been them protecting me because, so protecting the fact that it was something wrong with me,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Can you think of a time when you first knew something was wrong? Like the first time you had like concrete evidence that something was different than what the picture was portrayed to the rest of the neighborhood or the general public, or
Let's see.
it's okay if you can't.
I remember a time at the church that the faith that my family belongs to. My mom was at church, and I guess the bishop had told her something about my dad being worried about my dad, and the persona that he had, and I was like, what is going on? And I've had slight like family members said things like, would say that there's something, there's something different about your dad, and I was like, yeah, I could feel that, but I never wanted to,
Right.
I just wanted my dad to love me, and I
Right.
loved my dad. I held him on a pedestal. So
Right.
there's a lot of circumstances that are just,
I think pretty common with a lot of fathers are not very emotionally mature, maybe, or
Yeah.
aren't attached to their emotions very well sometimes. And when that happens, and kids don't get that in the home that their dad is warm and fuzzy, they seek that the rest of their lives, right? I mean, they seek that approval from their father, who just emotionally sometimes isn't capable of giving it.
yeah,
Even though their father loves them, he just can't show it in the way that
right.
kids sometimes. Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of what you had growing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I had growing up.
All right. Oh wait, Melody said something. My wife says, your mom was such a kind, compassionate, loving woman. I worked with her and loved her. Well,
Absolutely.
I think everybody that knows your mom would say that.
Yeah. She was angelic. It was
Your
just,
mom is this also a bigger than life figure, right? I mean, she is like she dressed perfectly, like impeccably. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was perfect. And she just was lovely.
yeah.
Don't you think? Like
Absolutely.
she was the perfect example of someone who can be a matriarch of a family. Like,
Yeah.
she's stately. She's
Right. My mom
regal.
was, and that's just how she was just the sweetest, most wonderful woman. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
with or without her makeup on, my mom was absolutely beautiful, the most beautiful. I remember being very, very young and just going in her room and just looking at her because she was so beautiful.
She's pretty.
And I wanted to be like her. And I got her perfume and I tried to spray it on me because I thought that would make me beautiful like my mom, and I sprayed it right in my eyes.
Oh, of course.
And that's if not my first memory, my mom just held me and she sang, "Hush, little baby, don't say a word," and I just remember that very vividly. And my mom, the beauty on her inside matched the beauty on her outside. She had a light coming from her. Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, we agree. And everybody that knew her knew that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so when did you tell me about how you got involved in using drugs? Was it?
Well, okay, so
'Cause there's a lot of story here, and we're not going to get to all of it.
No, we won't. We won't.
That's okay.
So my brother and sister both attempted suicide within a couple weeks of each other.
Okay.
I remember my sister was in my older sister. She was in the psych unit, and my brother was in the emergency room.
Oh man.
And
How old were you at this point?
I was 16.
Okay.
Okay, so my brother was 12, 16. And anyway, so I felt like that it was my fault.
Oh.
That it was my fault because I take on, like I thought that I could help my family in some way because I didn't struggle as much with things. It didn't seem like. And so I blamed myself, and I just went and found a rave up in Salt Lake somewhere, and I just started, like I did whatever drug that I could, and didn't even know what it was, but I just did it.
This is at age 16.
Yep.
All right. Well, listen, we're coming to the end of our first segment. Vanessa has just been introduced to drugs at a rave, and her life's going to
No
take
good.
off from there. So anyway, follow us and come back at the second segment, and we'll continue with the story of Vanessa McNeil. Thanks.
You are listening to We Do Recover with Jared Miller and co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. We'll be right back after this short break with more of We Do Recover with Jared Miller, sponsored by Steps Recovery Center and the Hilton Garden Inn.
I'm Desmond Lomax, one of the clinical executives here at Steps Recovery, and once you become in the Steps family, you're just a part of the Steps family. A lot of us have overcome substances, overcome addiction, and now we're able to help other people. Second of all, we're also going to help you in a way where you can afford to be helped. Third of all, we're going to give you the same quality that many organizations are charging 2 to 3 times, and it's more about you than it is about our organization.
We welcome you back to We Do Recover with Jared Miller, co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. And now with part 2 of our podcast, Jared Miller and Dr. Terry Sellers.
All right, thanks. Welcome back, everybody. We're here with Vanessa McNeil, who's telling us a story that's unbelievable. Before we get back to it, the part 2 of our podcast today is sponsored by the Hilton Garden Inn. And are you staying at the Hilton Garden Inn?
What's
or
that?
Are you living at home?
I live at home.
Oh, we should put you up in the hotel for a night.
Why not?
Because the Hilton Garden Inn is our sponsor, and I'll tell you this, it's always sunny and bright at the Hilton Garden Inn. If you are traveling through southern Utah, give them a Google search. Just type in Hilton Garden Inn, and I'll tell you that they're really good to us. Their amenities are fantastic. That pool is amazing. The rooms are clean and bright, and I love those guys. They treat us really well. So if you're ever coming through southern Utah, need a place to stay, try out the Hilton Garden Inn. All right, so let's get back to the story here, because we got a lot of story.
Yeah.
People think your dad has, if they're just listening to this, they think your dad has this kind of front, right?
Right.
That's all we've got so far.
Okay.
It's a big front.
Yeah. So my dad was a physician and
your
an
dad's
attorney.
a doctor.
Yeah, and a lawyer.
Your dad's a lawyer.
Yep.
How do you do that?
I don't know. He worked a lot, and I think he got sick of doing, I don't even know exactly what the story is. He somehow faked his way into getting his medical degree. I don't know how that went down, but all I know him as, he was a doctor. And then when I was going through school, he decided to become an attorney. Yeah.
Right.
And so he went to BYU Law, and and he did all sorts of things.
There's some, your dad did a lot of stuff, no question.
Yeah.
He was a crafty, inventive man, for sure.
Yes.
And there is some mystery around whether he actually finished med school.
Yeah, there's
or
some mystery,
when.
but I don't know. All I know is he was a practicing physician.
He practiced medicine.
He practiced medicine. He was an
practiced
attorney.
law.
Yeah, practiced law.
Gave lectures on law and medicine.
Yeah. And this is how I knew him, up
Right.
until my mom died. You know what I
Right.
mean? I didn't know that there was any, I didn't know all of the things that he was doing that was not, that wasn't.
Lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
So, and we probably don't have time to get into all of that
Yeah,
stuff,
no.
so I don't think we want to anyway. But so, you went to a rave. This is
Yes.
you have a brother in the emergency room. You've got a sister in the
Yes.
psych ward who
Uh-huh.
have attempted suicide.
Yes.
Is there a family history of suicide anywhere before that that you know of?
I don't, I heard my dad had always said that his sister hung herself or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but other
So
than that,
maybe.
no. Yeah, maybe. But anyway, so I'm up at this rave. I do all these things. And I actually lived in the dorms at UVSC at
Okay.
the time. And I completely, all of the drugs that I did, I was completely out of my mind for quite a while, like maybe 3 weeks or something. So after that time, I called my dad because I wanted to get back into school. I had screwed up my semester of school because I hadn't been to any of it. I wanted to get into treatment, and so I called my dad because I didn't want to upset my mom. I called my dad, and he had me meet him in the garage of that house in Orem. I met him there and I asked him please to help me get into treatment. And he walked into a bin in the garage and he came and he threw me a bag of syringes. And he told me to stay away from the family and I could come to him for clean syringes. But that's when it transitioned where he said I had to call him Dr. McNeil and I'd be it would be a doctor-patient relationship.
How confusing is that for a daughter?
Because I told him I don't do drugs that way. And he just told me that was, probably the best way to do it. He said it gets things over with quicker, which is like, for me, it was just like very devastating. Very devastating.
Sounds devastating.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like you'd be able to receive that with love.
No. So I left.
Sound loving. I'm not sure if it was or wasn't. I don't know that, but it doesn't sound like you could receive that as love.
Right. And I thought once again I'd failed my family, and so I left. And
so you're a failure.
Yeah, that's how I felt, and I just began my.
Well, you gotta be numb.
Yeah.
For that, right?
So very, very long.
Your family thinks you're a failure.
Yeah, well, that's
and it's a very successful looking family for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and I don't know about my whole family what they thought, but I know what I felt. I felt like I failed my family. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Right. And I think that the rest of I just disappeared. I just disappeared and just started using up in Salt Lake, and I mean that started a long process for me. You know what I mean? And I went in and out of different treatment programs, in and out, because I always had hope, always had hope for something better, but I was lost in this despair. You know what I mean? Like I would just be like, I remember being paralyzed on the floor in despair. And it was just a long process. And when my mom died, it just got worse. It got much worse. That's when I started really using, I guess I don't know if I can talk about what.
You can talk about what you used. Yeah.
Okay.
We're not going to glorify it, but we can talk about it. Yeah.
So I really started, I dove into my heroin addiction.
Okay.
And after my mom died, because that was the only way for me to deal with that. I thought to deal with that.
I don't know how comfortable you are talking about all of this. And if I say something you're not comfortable.
Oh, I'll stop you.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
please.
Absolutely.
Because the thing we don't want to do is, I don't want to make you too uncomfortable for sure.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll let you know.
But I think we need to talk about the things that happened. So your mom went in for a minor surgical procedure.
Yes, which I didn't know about because my mom was very protective over me. I'm the sensitive one, very sensitive. And
sure.
I wish that I would have known, but I didn't know that she got a facelift until after she died, and I saw her before she was buried.
Okay.
Because I saw the marks on her face.
Okay.
She went in for a facelift with prompts from my dad, I guess.
Sure.
And then she died. And I thought that I didn't know what had happened. But it turns out that, that my dad did murder my mom. And that was rough.
Yeah. No,
that was rough.
That's worse than rough.
Yeah. So my dad murdered my mom.
Can I tell some details and you can tell me if I'm wrong?
Yeah. Well, you might know better.
Well, I mean, this really has been on Dateline NBC, and you guys were my neighbors. Like I was.
Yeah.
You weren't my neighbors when your mom died because your family had moved to Pleasant Grove or somewhere. But, so your mom went in for a minor surgical procedure, which is a facelift, and she was on some medications afterwards. The thing I heard is possibly your father gave her more medication than she needed. Apparently she was on benzos and pain pills for the procedure.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And then this maybe this isn't true, but I've read this stuff. So
yeah, right.
At least somebody thought it was true. And then she was in the bathtub and passed out and.
Right. They called it a dry drowning. So it was like she was already, I believe that she was already unconscious.
Yeah.
And then was drowned.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the conclusion I got to too. Is she?
Yeah.
Maybe sort of an overdose.
Yeah.
But
the details.
But she didn't. Knowing your mom, she didn't overdose herself.
Oh, absolutely not. My mom. I remember when she
probably hated taking the pills.
Yeah,
frankly.
I remember when she had to get screws and plates put in her arm because she'd wrecked her scooter. I remember watching her, with my own two eyes, watching her cut a a pain pill into like 16
Oh, my
pieces.
goodness.
And because she just wasn't, that
Right,
just wasn't
yeah,
her. She
absolutely.
hated any sort of medication.
Any sort of lack of control, too.
Right,
She liked to sort of be in control of her surroundings and her situation.
right.
So that's not your mom's personality to have taken too
No,
many pills.
no. And from what my sister told me, that she said that she had told her the day before or something that if something happened to her to go to the police. I don't know. That was my sister's account. And I really don't know too many details about it. I try and stay away from that kind of stuff
Sure,
just because.
Sure, and I don't want to rehash it too
Oh no,
much
it's
here.
okay.
But-
It's just I just know that what happened is my dad murdered my mom.
Right. Right.
And my mom was my best friend.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I loved my mom. She was, you know what I mean? Like my dad, she was a light, you know, and
No,
she
she
still
was.
is, you know what I
Absolutely,
mean? But it was too soon, you know what I mean? It was too soon for my mom to go.
Do you remember how old she was exactly?
She was 50. She had just
Yeah.
turned 50. Yeah, I was
that's
25.
Very young.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and looked younger than 50.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
My mom's beautiful.
Yeah, no question.
Anyone who hasn't seen her, she was epic.
she-
She was the most beautiful woman ever.
She was really beautiful.
Yeah.
She was a beauty pageant winner, and
Yep.
I mean, she really was gorgeous.
yeah.
And so, okay, so
So then my brother.
so there's a trial.
yes, there was a trial.
Your dad gets convicted.
Right. But before that, my brother committed suicide.
Oh, I didn't know the order of that. Sorry.
Yes. So
So your brother committed suicide how long after your mom had died?
my mom died April 11th, 2007. So January 16th, the day after my mom's birthday, my brother committed suicide in 2010. So
it was 3 years later.
yep, 3 years
Your
later,
dad's
almost
not
3 years later.
convicted yet?
No, my dad wasn't convicted until
Okay.
the end of 2013. Well, the trial was the end of 2013. So beginning of 2014, I think, is when he was convicted.
Okay.
So
So then he went to prison.
he went to prison. And yeah, and then my dad killed himself in prison. I was in a halfway house when I found out. I found out like someone said that they saw it on the news or something, and then I got a phone call, and it was just
How did that feel? That's got to be
Um,
really confusing.
well, I mean, my dad had attempted suicide a couple times before that, but it was
I guess I'm looking from the outside. You're feeling this, and I'm not. Right?
yeah. I felt
Here's what I'm seeing: a kid who's believes, not a kid because you weren't a kid at this point, but you're a young person who believes her father has killed her mother, who now commits suicide. Do you grieve that your father died, or
Absolutely.
is it a relief, or what is that? What do you feel with that?
no. I felt no relief from that. No,
Okay.
I was
So
completely
it was just
floored.
more devastation.
More devastation. You know, like I was talking to you before, like my dad, I loved my dad and I love my dad still.
Right.
I love my dad.
Right.
That doesn't mean that I
Condone anything he
condone
did.
anything that he did. My
Sure.
dad took the most beautiful light, but I love my dad. And the things that I remember about him, like everything that I remember about my mother was absolutely beautiful.
Right.
There are a few things that I remember about my dad that I hold on to
That are beautiful.
that are beautiful.
Right.
Being a child and holding on to his finger, you know, his thumb, it was just my hand wrapped around it. I remember that.
Sure.
I remember there's a few things that I remember about my dad that I decide to hold on to, not because, you know, not because of anything other than like he was my dad.
Right.
You know, I love him and I can forgive him and it can still be okay for that, but not okay what he did.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it'll never be okay what he did. And he made the choice that he made to end his life was very different than the choice that he made to end my mother's life.
Absolutely.
That's a very different choice, but it doesn't make it less traumatic for me.
Sure.
You know what
Sure.
I mean?
How
It does. You don't put it on the same level like, oh, they both died, whatever. Both my parents are gone.
They're gone.
Are
Yeah.
gone. And my brother,
And your brother's
gone.
gone.
He took it
you
into his
basically
hands.
have this core family of a mother and a father. You have two sisters and a brother. Is that true?
yes.
And then some
And then
adopted
adopted
kids
sisters as
from
well,
Russia,
my
right.
sisters, yeah.
But mom, dad, brother gone out of that family. That's
Absolutely.
unbelievable.
Yeah. And then the thing is it came to a point for me after all these things, I realized when I got down here, when I was in treatment with STEPS, I realized because I have the most beautiful therapist. She was a therapist at STEPS. She isn't anymore, but she is so important to me. Like, she guided me through so much of my trauma work.
Yeah.
Guided me.
That's a lot of trauma work.
Yeah, and she's just, I didn't have any, I knew that I wanted to be clean, but I didn't have any reason to do it that was in front of me because I lost my children. I lost them. I lost custody of my son and custody of my daughter.
Because of drug use?
Because of drug use and all the things that follow with that, different reasons, which my son has a beautiful adoptive family. Beautiful, and I still have contact with him. My daughter is beautiful. She's lives in Seattle, and if it could have been enough for them to just get clean, I wish that it could have, instead of just for myself. But with all of the trauma and all the things and feeling like I was like worthless, I felt like I didn't deserve to have my children, But then when I got down here to STEPS, like I realized that I was continuing to be stuck in that suffering, and it was almost as if I was using them as an excuse, not outwardly, but I will not let the trauma that's happened in my life be an excuse for me to destroy my life anymore.
Good for you.
I can't do that. I won't do that. I don't want that to be my legacy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that to be my story, part of my story. And I was always like, I just want so much for my children to be proud of me. But
Sure.
Maybe I should just disappear from that life. No, like I'm...
Sure. How does that thought not cross your mind?
I
right?
mean, it has, but then it goes back to
3/5 of your family's already disappeared.
Yeah. But then it goes back to my mother. My mother told me something my mom told me. She said, I know the way that you look at, because my son wasn't born when she died. My son was born after she died.
Okay.
She said, I know the way that you look at Ada. I can feel it. She's all the feeling is, it's palpable. You can see that. You can feel it. How much love you have for her. And it's unconditional. You know what I mean? She's like, I know that there's nothing that she could do that you would think that she was any less worthy of anything,
Right.
or lessen her worth.
Right.
She's like, you're my baby. And I see you that way. You know what I mean? And the thing is
It's beautiful.
yeah. And so I hold on to those things, and it's great because for a long time I was like, my mom's gone, my family's gone. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I still have these memories. And, the forgiveness part for my dad, I don't think that I ever, like, I've never hated my dad. I've never hated him for what he's done.
Interesting.
Because hate is so much more of a burden to bear.
Oh, for sure.
It's so much more of a burden to bear. You know what I mean? And
No question.
and in my recovery,
What good is that going to do you?
yeah, in my recovery, I've realized that, that self-forgiveness and self-love, like I always wanted my dad to love me, thinking that would be what would save me from my sadness or from my pain. And it's me that saved me.
Sure.
It had to be me, but a healthier version of me.
What does your shirt say?
It says love is the cure.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. A friend of mine turned me on to this. He took a picture and he had this on there, and I was like, oh my gosh, where'd you get that? So anyway,
Yeah,
so
hate's not the cure for anything.
yeah, love. You know what I mean?
How does this sit with your remaining family, though? Like,
How does what
you
sit?
have 2 sisters still with us. You have 2 biological sisters still with us.
Yeah, beautiful sisters.
Do you?
I love my sisters.
I'll bet you do, and I'll bet they love you.
And all my sisters, my adopted sisters are my sisters as well. So
For sure.
you know what I mean?
I don't want you to speak for them because that's not fair, but
I know that we all experience trauma differently.
yeah, for sure we do.
And we all heal differently.
yeah.
So yeah, I won't.
Do your
can't or
sisters take issue at all with you saying that you love your dad?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure that they would. My sisters love me. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
what they're stoked on is that I'm
Clean.
I'm not
And
just that, but
alive.
I've found a way to I feel joy.
Smile.
I
Right.
feel happy. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I'm doing something better, and I think that that's what their focus is.
Yeah, good.
That I'm you know, they're proud of me. They tell me that they're proud of me. I feel it. I know they
that's
are. So
beautiful.
just like I'm proud of them as well.
Sure.
Yeah. So
Sure. What are they doing?
what are they doing? So my older sister, my biological sisters, my older sister is in she's doing her master's program at the University of Utah for social work.
Okay.
My younger sister is a physician for University of Utah. They're awesome. I'm super proud of them. And my other sisters are beautiful too. Like I'm not in contact as much with them.
Where are they?
There's some in Salt Lake. There's some in Texas. There's some like in
Back in Russia?
in Michigan. No,
Oh,
the other
okay.
one's not. She's in Salt Lake as well.
No, nobody's back
No,
overseas.
not anymore. Nope.
Sweet.
Yeah. So
Sweet.
yeah. So they're all doing well, and they're just happy that I'm doing well.
So the family is the family that's still around has all sort of gravitated towards healing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like we have a social worker, potential social worker. We have a physician.
Yeah.
And what are you doing with your life?
Well, I mean,
Do you have goals that you're
absolutely,
headed towards?
absolutely. Like I've always wanted to, and being in recovery now, working the 12 steps. Shout out to my sponsor. She's awesome. I love her. She's like my family, beautiful. All of my people in the recovery community.
You can say her first name if you want.
Stacy.
Shout out to Stacy.
Yeah. So, yeah, all of the people in my life are beautiful.
What are you passionate about right now?
What am I passionate about? I'm passionate about spreading a message of hope.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
There's no
if
better messenger.
Yeah, thanks.
There really isn't.
I mean, if there's anything that I can do to help anyone, even if it's just like I said, one person.
That's what I'm
If
saying.
one person can feel anything from whatever I have, like the stuff that I've gone through, or the message of hope, because I have so much hope today.
Yeah.
I always have. You know, when I at a point in time when I lost it, that's when I tried to end my life.
Sure.
You know, and I made my way
Sure.
down here afterwards, because that's not part of my story.
Right.
That's not part of my story. All the things that have happened in my life, that trauma, we all go through trauma. We all go through hardcore stuff. And the worst thing that's happened to me in my life and the worst thing that's happened to somebody else in their life is exactly the same. It's the same. Because
Yeah.
the worst thing that's
can't-
happened in
right,
somebody's
'cause it's
life
the
is
worst
the
thing that's
worst
happened
thing
to you.
that's happened in their life.
Oh, I got that lecture once from I was sitting in a group and we were talking about the stuff we'd lost,
Yeah.
you know, and I lost this giant house in Orem and I lost my brand new Porsche and I lost this, and this little 16-year-old girl called me out and she said something about everything she'd lost. And I'm like, I said to her, what have you lost? You're 16. And she said, you can only lose what you have.
Yeah.
We all can lose only what we have, and just because somebody looks like they have something more than someone else, the loss of it all is the same.
Yeah.
And so the tragedy, the trauma that we go through, like you're saying, if you want to put them on a scale, great, that's fantastic, but it's trauma to you.
Right.
I love your
But the
perspective because, frankly, looking from the outside of your story, that's a lot of trauma.
Right, and that's okay, because the thing is there's a quote that I really love, and it says, somebody I loved once gave me a box full of darkness, and it took me years to understand that this too was a gift.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So
Wow.
all of the things that I've gone through, it's just part of my life story. It's not part of my story now. It's part of my past.
Right. It's
And-
not part of directing
Yeah.
your future.
And the thing is I had my mother for 25 years. I had my brother for 25 years.
Right.
I am blessed. I have so many blessings. It's crazy. Like
What
I have so many blessings. I have a beautiful family. I have beautiful children. I have a beautiful life that I'm living. I get to live every single day. You know what I mean? And wake up. Bad days, good days, it doesn't matter. Like I'm here and I'm not leaving the people I've had to leave. I had to change people, places, things. I had to change everything. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I had to change everything. And I used to think that was a part of, like, I can love someone enough to just, you know, that it's okay. Like, I'll just stay here in this position because I don't want to leave anyone behind.
Sure.
But there was another quote that I really liked that I read when I got here to St. George, and it said that, what does it say? The door to my heart will always be open, but I've renovated the porch, so you'll have to step up to reach it. You know what I mean? So those kind of things, like I'm stoked on life today. You know what I mean? I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy. I mean, I dance a lot. I sing a lot. People that know me here, they just know that's what I do. You know, I do it because I've got this soul that's big, 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 you know, and everyone's souls are big, big, big.
Right.
And I've had to learn how to start to love this body and this mind, this brain, and connect that. Like, you know what I mean? We're all blessed. We're all so blessed. You know what I mean? Just start focusing on those things. Change your perspective. Change your perspective.
Wow. Like, how incredible are you? Like, this is great stuff. People could hear this message and it will touch some people.
Well, thank you.
Because this is this is great stuff. We can change our perspective. We can find blessings in darkness and pain.
Yeah.
And it can be okay. Hey, really quickly before we go, we're about out of time, but Judy Miller, that's Jared's mom, who's our kind of the mom of the podcast, says, thanks for sharing your story.
Welcome.
Angela again says, I'm so grateful for you, Vanessa. You are the perfect roommate. You're the perfect roommate. Come on. Right here.
Girl.
Knuckles. Give me some.
Oh, boom.
Yep, the perfect roommate. And there's one more quote. I got 27 seconds. Come on, Sean. And Vanessa, what a wonderful woman you have become. You have I got to read my wife. You have so much to give and have really taught me some great things today. Thank you. Okay.
And don't forget the expo.
Finally, before we go, Recovery Expo is Thursday, the 30th of September. Doors open at 5 o'clock. It's at the Monarch in Ogden. Be there and listen to some great speakers and see some great recovery stuff. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us today on We Do Recover with Jared Miller.
Help us spread our message of hope. Like, comment, and share.
If you have any topics or ideas for future shows, please share that on our Facebook page.
That Facebook page is We Do Recover with Jared Miller. If you or a loved one needs help, please reach out to us. Again, thank you for listening.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. This has been a production from A Podcast Studio.